Hey everybody, this is IndieGeek, and today I'm taking a look at Wasteland 2. So Wasteland 2 is a game in development by Inxile Entertainment, and it is currently available on Steam through Early Access, so it is in beta right now. So I do need to mention that there will be, some potential, maybe not totally complete things is probably the best way to put it. There aren't like really any bugs that I've found per se, but there are definitely some probably tweaks to the gameplay to be made still. And it is available for $60, and of course I will put a link to where you can purchase that on Steam in the description. So, I will say I never played the original Wasteland, but I have played Fallout 1 and 2, which were kind of almost spiritual sequels to Wasteland 1. So I'm familiar with the gameplay, and I'll just kind of talk about the gameplay a little bit. I'm going to start over from the beginning, and I'll kind of describe my thoughts on the game. There are parts of the game that I like a lot, and there are some things that I think could probably use a little bit of tweaking. But I'm just going to jump in here, and we'll see what's going on from the beginning. Alright, so first we get to pick out our party. And we can either pick the preset classes, or you can create a custom character and kind of build your own class. But I'm just going to use preset classes just because it'll be a little quicker. So, I think I want probably a jack of all trades, a combat medic. Let's see here. Maybe a sniper and a bruiser. That sounds pretty good. So that is one of the nice things here, is that there's tons of customization in terms of how you play the game, just because you can make tons of different kinds of parties and really kind of build your own kind of style party to go through the game. So I think that's a pretty cool idea, and it seems to work pretty well. If I didn't mention, I have played about an hour of this, and I was kind of in a situation on my save where there wasn't really much I could do. I was kind of just screwed. So, alright. A stiff, bearded older man wearing a hard-worn ranger uniform and a battered old cowboy hat. General Vargas walks with a cane, but he's not helpless. He wears a pearl-handled revolver on his hip, and there's a lot of notches on his barrel.
I appreciate you coming to Captain Ace's retirement party. You hardly knew the man. Appropriate, too, seeing as how investigating his death will be your first duty as a desert ranger.
Alright, so we get to kind of have a little bit of conversation here.
Which has lately been giving us cause for concern. We gave him 3 repeater units and sent him to hook them up to 3 remote radio towers. This would have allowed us to get a fix on the signal. But sadly, Ace was murdered by unknown assailants right after hooking up the first tower. And his logbook and the last 2 repeater units were stolen.
So hopefully you guys can hear that. Hopefully that's loud enough to be able to hear. It didn't really explain, so I will explain for anyone who is not familiar with Wasteland. It takes place in kind of an alternate reality where there was kind of a like nuclear sort of, nuclear war basically in like 1998, I believe is when it's supposed to be set. And so we are in Arizona in that kind of situation basically.
Hardly found your feet with us, and here I am sending you on a mission that already got 1 ranger killed. Well, I wish I had another option, but the desert rangers are spread a little thin right now. No more experienced hands to spare. The next generation is going to have to lead the charge.
So one thing I will mention is that I do really like that there's voice acting. I don't know if the original had voice acting, but the voice acting in this one seems pretty good. I like it a lot. And if I didn't mention, this was kickstarted, actually, so that's pretty cool.
All I know is the repeaters will upgrade the towers and allow us to zero in on the mystery signal.
They kind of followed Double Fine's footsteps and decided if people wanted a sequel to Wasteland, that they would kickstart it. And I think that's I think that's a really cool idea, especially because, like I said, I haven't played the original, so it was interesting to see that there was such a big following for the original, big enough following to kickstart the game. Alright, I think I'm just going to skip the rest of that dialogue there.
I know you're eager to get out into the field, but I haven't told you where you're heading yet.
Okay. So he will mark our map for us, marks where the radio tower's at. Good deal.
Good luck out there, recruits.
Alright. So alright, I'm going to go into the options for just a minute. I want to turn the music volume down and the master volume up a little bit. That way, hopefully the voices should be able to be heard pretty well. Okay, so, I mean, if you've played, either the original Wasteland or games like Fallout 1 and 2, this probably looks pretty familiar to you. One of the things that I will suggest is to go into the options and turn on mouse edge scrolling, because that was not on by default, and I think I spent like maybe the first half an hour or so not realizing that it wasn't on, and that was stupid goat. Boom. Shot him. Well, that's what happens. Man, your goat attacked us. Alright, so yeah, so like I said, the scrolling helps a lot. Another thing that I found helps a lot is that Q and E rotate, which is going to be really important. And of course, the middle scroll wheel can zoom in and out. So we're going to gather a party and travel. And those globes are kind of how we choose to leave an area when we're ready to leave. So they're kind of, I guess in a way, they're kind of three parts of the gameplay. So there's like the part that we just had where we're walking around and conversing with people on the map. Then there is kind of a smaller subset map that we go into, and we'll see that soon enough, for combat, which is a little different. And then there's also just the map where we choose where we want to go. And one of the things that we're going to have to manage is our water, because we only have so much water, and travel, of course, uses up water, and when we run out, we can have some issues, obviously. The loading screens are a little long, but like like I've mentioned before, it is beta, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our map, click on the radio tower, and travel. And then it'll kind of auto-travel for us.
Ranger Team Echo, this is Ranger Command. Come in.
Okay.
Roger, Echo 1. Just making sure your radio is working. I'll be your dispatcher from here on out. I also wanted to give you a little heads up on your water situation. If you've all got full canteens, you should have enough water to reach the place where Ace died with plenty to spare. But if you're going to go exploring, you'll want to fill up again at any oasis you can find. Remember, your main priority is to recover the repeater units Ace was carrying. We must, of course, bring Ace's killers to justice. But right now, that's secondary to discovering the location of that signal. 10-4, Echo 1, carry on. Ranger Command out.
Alright, so I find that the easiest thing to do is to go through and do it like this. You can choose to just kind of freeform travel and go wherever you want. But I have typically found it easiest to just pick where I want to go and kind of have it just lead me there. So, I do want to talk about the art a little bit. Okay, so we don't have Outdoorsman 1, so we can't run away. So we are going to go into our first combat sequence here. So like I said, I haven't played the original Wasteland, but I've seen some of the original Wasteland, and of course I've played Fallout 1 and 2. So as far as like the art is concerned, I like that kind of the look and the feel of the game all kind of still evoke that, the original Wasteland, but brought into kind of a modern sense. There's a little more detail and kind of better texture quality and stuff like that over the original, as well as over Fallout 1 and 2. And I am going to mention Fallout 1 and 2 a lot just because they are games that I'm more familiar with that kind of follow this same kind of idea here. So here is kind of my one really big complaint about the game, and that is the combat, and specifically the fact that, like, I tried 2 hits with my other dude there, and it told me that I had a 70% chance, and I missed both. And it kind of reminds me of, like, the XCOM games. And I mean, really, the combat in general just reminds me of the XCOM games. And that's not a bad thing, but it also reminds me of the fact how many times in XCOM you had, like, a 70 or an 80% chance to hit, and just missed every single time. And there we go. That'll be a miss. Just like right on cue. I have found, though, that guns tend to work better than melee weapons. And I don't know if that's just kind of observer bias, or if that's kind of hard-coded into the game. There we go. Nice. So we get experience, and there is experience, there's leveling, that kind of stuff. And then we get to loot the bodies. And then something that was not made particularly clear, and of course, I said this is a beta and there's no tutorial, so I don't know if there maybe eventually will be a tutorial, but I think like the first time I was on this screen for maybe 10 minutes before I realized that you had to go down here to leave. I just couldn't figure out how to leave, and I think partially that's because the game doesn't really tutorialize kind of how to travel as well as how to do camera controls. So what ended up happening was I had to go into the controls menu because I thought maybe there was just a hotkey to leave combat, but I found basically the camera controls, and then I was finally able to leave combat. So that was one of those things that maybe wasn't delivered as clearly as it could have been. Yeah, I will say, what's kind of interesting with all of this is that I really like the exploring parts, but not so much the combat, and I actually feel the same way about like Fallout 1 and 2 as well. Sorry to keep bringing those up, but again, that's kind of my connection to this series and this kind of gameplay. So that's probably a lot just to do with my personal preference, and my personal preference is that I don't necessarily like this style of combat. I've got a lot of the same problems with this as I did with any of the XCOM games.
Give it a good going over. The folks that picked him up said it looked like he crawled there. Maybe you can find some tracks leading to where he was attacked. Copy? 10-4 Echo 1, and check in immediately with any new info. Those repeater units are a top priority. Ranger Command out.
But that being said, I really enjoy the excuse me. I really enjoy the art in the game. Like I said, I really enjoy the environments. I think it looks nice, and it's just really interesting environments. Ooh. So that did update our logbook. We can look in our logbook, and we discovered Ace's Ranger Star. And I like the music when it shows up. It's pretty. It's used kind of like sparsely, doesn't show up all that often. Okay. I've got a job too. I've got a job too. Pal collecting tools from pukes like you. Now, are you gonna pay up or not? All right. I guess we'll pay. And that, of course, is mostly just because, like I said, I don't really like the combat, and I think a lot of it's just because I'm not good at the combat. I find it pretty difficult.
Well, let me tell you Matthias's law, friends. Matthias's law is vengeance. And soon, Matthias's law will stretch all the way to Arizona and kill those so-called upholders of justice, the Desert Rangers.
Hey, that's us. No, but that does like bring up a good point that I was kind of meaning to hit on, and I haven't really yet. So you know, I mentioned Fallout 1 and 2. I was also a giant fan of Fallout 3, right? So I never got like super into Fallout 1 and 2 because I found them to be fairly difficult, and of course it's been quite a while since I've tried, so maybe I'd be a little better at it now. But you know, that being said, as a huge fan of things like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, it's pretty awesome getting to play Wasteland 2 here, which of course is made by the same company, and I would assume a lot of the same team members that made Wasteland 1, which was, you know, kind of the inspiration for the Fallout games. So you know, they're definitely masters of their craft and in that regard. And as you would expect, this game has, you know, it definitely has that atmosphere that you would expect from a game like this. And I think, you know, even my gripes about the combat are not that big of a deal, and I can, you know, I get over that just because I enjoy the kind of the rest of it so much. Got a little framey there going into combat, but that's alright. Not too bad. For the most part, I've found this to run pretty well. I haven't had too many like framey parts or anything. Of course, if you haven't noticed, this does run on kind of an AP system, so we've got a certain number of points we can use each turn. And so like using items or reloading uses those points, or moving uses those points, and then attacking uses those points. So there's definitely some trying to balance how you're kind of taking care of all that. So I'll probably play for a few more minutes here, then wrap up my thoughts and call it a wrap here. But first we're going to try and take out this toad. Looks like we almost got him. Oh yeah, that's right. That happened to me the first time too. He just like took one of my weapons. Yeah, darn. The sniper really only gets to shoot once per turn. Alright, well, he's almost done with. Pretty close. That'll do it. Perfect. Alright, so I can call General Vargas, and I should be able to level up.
Ranger Command, go ahead. Over. Echo 1, your team's recent progress merits a number of field promotions. Congratulations, Echo 1. You've done well.
Woo, thank you. You can now allocate your new survival points on the character screen. So, yep. That is what I figured. Press the C button, of course, to get to this screen here. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like I've actually got any points. Oh, there we go. Got some skill points, though. So, I'm not actually going to spend these right now, because I don't really want to spend a bunch of time doing that kind of stuff. But you can see there are quite a few skills available. So, there's definitely a lot of kind of customization there as well. So, you know, that is definitely a big part of this game, is kind of customizing your party, as well as, you know, just customizing each character in their abilities and all of that good stuff. So I can come over here, and this should be the repeater units. Yep, so we found the repeater units. Got some, I believe this will be a map. Yep, there's our map, and that'll tell us about that. So, I mean, this is kind of how the story progresses from here, is, you know, we've found the repeater units, and now the idea is that we're supposed to investigate, you know, not only are we supposed to investigate what happened to Ace, but we're also supposed to go and kind of finish his mission off. And then the missions just kind of spawn off in that way from there. So this is kind of where I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. Considering this is in beta, I still feel like it's pretty strong. There's only a few things that I don't like, and some of those things are just kind of my personal opinions on things, like the combat. You know, I'm sure a lot of people love this kind of combat. It's just not really my cup of tea exactly. So, you know, if that's something that doesn't concern you, then just ignore what I said about the combat entirely. You know, if you were a fan of XCOM, if you were a fan of the original Fallout games, if you were a fan of the original Wasteland, then I don't think you have anything to worry about as far as the combat here. So that, you know, that's kind of my big complaint. And then just the fact that it's not exactly tutorialized, and I'm not asking for it to like totally hold my hand, but maybe just a little, the occasional hint would really kind of, in my opinion, help out kind of the first mission here. But other than that, everything else I find really, really good. You know, like I said, I like the art. I think it's a nice way of keeping the old style of art, but bringing it to, you know, a modern version of the game. And what's really blowing it away for me is the just story and the atmosphere of the whole thing. It feels great. It feels like a world that I really want to know more about. And, you know, I'm really excited to continue to play this and see kind of where it goes. But yeah, that'll kind of wrap it up. So like I said, I will have in the description where you can purchase the game for yourself if you are interested in doing that. And as always, feel free to leave comments if there's anything that you would like to comment on. Subscribe to the channel to see more of my videos every single day. And if you liked my look at Wasteland 2, then please consider clicking the like button, because that could help me out a lot. And I appreciate everything that you do to help. So with all of that being said, I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.